Big weekend coming up at Churchill Downs. I am Gino Bacola alongside my good friend Barry Spears, the sniper. Barry, they have a really strong Saturday, even Sunday card at Churchill for closing weekend coming up. We're going to look at a bunch of stakes races. The feature on Saturday is the Stephen Foster, which is a loaded race that we'll be able to dive into. How's everything going on your end, my friend?
Doing great. Just keeping an eye on Churchill, though. It might get a carryover into the last day, which would mean a
Yeah.
mandatory payout in the Derby City Six. So that would be pretty cool to close that meet out.
So we'll dive into races 7 through 12. We'll take a look at the 6 stakes races that they're going to have on the Saturday program, some really nice ones. And Saturday is the type of day where you'll be watching the races at Churchill. You might be looking around and playing races. I know Laurel Park has some good action on Saturday. Woodbine is going to have some good action on Saturday. Los Alamitos will be racing there. Aqueduct, all over the place. This classic day pass is perfect for you. For $10, you can get any track you want for that day of classic past performances. If you want to go up to the all access, you pay a little bit more, but it's the one flat fee. You can bounce around to any tracks that you want all throughout the day, all throughout the night. Maybe you want to look at a track. You know what? They rained off the grass. I'm not going to play the races over there, but I can jump into a different track. Check out the classic day pass. If you have not looked at these, I don't think everybody knows about this because they're really good on the weekends, especially when you're going to be firing at a bunch of different tracks. And Barry, we're going to fire at Churchill Downs this weekend. We actually start out the graded stakes action with the 7th race. So this is actually the Derby City 6 where it starts right here, race number 7. We're going to look at the daily racing form past performances, and we get a really interesting race because it's a small field, but we have Torpedo Anna coming off her worst race in her career. It was really the first time in her entire career when she didn't show up for a race, and she didn't run really, really well at some point. Every other race, she was in the top 2. And on May the 2nd in the La Troyenne, she had an okay start, but going into the first turn, her and Darth Vader, they bounce around. She actually got bounced on both sides going into the turn. She recovered after a few strides. She sat second, but she just had no response, Barry. When they asked her at the top of the lane, she was backing up. And while I will say, that was her lone career bad race, this year, while she's won, she hasn't really taken a step forward on speed figures and stuff based on last year. She actually was running races that would have been some of her lower speed figures last year. So certainly the most accomplished, certainly eligible for the bounce back effort. Small field, not as tough of a field as she was facing last time out with Raging Sea and Randomized and Darth Vader all in there. They might have been tougher. They might be tougher than anyone she even faces in here. But I don't know if she's quite as good right now as she may have been last year from Travers to Breeders' Cup Distaff.
Yeah, I think, that last race in the La Troyenne really put up the red flags for flaws in her game. I think if she would have won that race, it would have probably put her into unbeatable territory.
Yeah, that stratosphere, right?
Right. And now, I think the races that she's in are going to be run differently. People aren't going to be so willing to concede certain things to her, and it might make it a little bit tougher. Like
Yeah.
this race, for example, there's horses that could probably match her speed maybe up front early, or at least get in her way enough to weaken her where somebody else could come and catch her late.
Yep.
This field isn't as good as the last one,
No,
so it might be a little tougher, and the race dynamics really are in her favor.
they are.
So if
It's a
she
really nice spot for her to try to bounce back.
Right, and if she loses here, then you definitely have to know that she's definitely somebody going forward that nobody's going to be afraid of.
Yeah, because she should be able to adapt in a race like this, as you're saying, right? There's a few different things
Right.
we can look at with her, but she should be able to sit a trip, get the lead if she wants. The horse who I've always liked, and I always played her, and I that just didn't really live up to it until recently was Royal Spa. I early in her career, I was playing her all the time in these sprint races where she would be coming from off the pace, and she would be okay, like second in the race behind Alba Star before she was DQ'd, and some decent efforts here and there, but didn't really put it all together. And then 3 starts back, you can just see the jump up in the speed figures, how
Hmm.
she's just been different. And it's 3 consecutive races. And what I do like, Barry, is seeing how her last 2 races, completely different running styles. On the lead in a race where there was no speed and they just wanted to get aggressive with her. And then most recently came from off the pace and just ran right by Jin Jin. So I don't know how good she is overall, who she's beat. But this was a horse that I've personally always liked and had been kind of waiting for big races from her. And now she did string 3 consecutive career best efforts in a row altogether. If I'm trying to play against Torpedo Anna, I think Royal Spa might be kind of the now horse. She ran right by Jin Jin last time out. I don't like with Taxed. I kind of feel like we've seen a lot of her best. So for me, process of elimination, I kind of got to the one if I'm trying to beat Anna.
Yeah, I mean, she's probably the only one that could maybe run with her early. I guess Jinjin could too. Um, but it's a tough task. I mean, Jinjin's last two races, I don't know where those came from.
Right? Yeah.
Uh, I'm kind of waiting for the shoe to drop and have her go back to running in the 70s again.
I think I am
Um,
too with her. Yeah.
she can't be trusted here. Tax likes to close. So, I mean, really, this race should be Torpedo Anna's to win.
It is. Yeah.
But again, the questions after that last race is she still game enough? I mean, I'm going to side to say she does, but I think going, from this race going forward, people are going to start riding these races differently against her.
Torpedo Anna, the one to beat in the Fleur de Lis. This one kicks off an all stakes pick 6 on Saturday at Churchill Downs. We move to the Tepin. This one is a mile on the turf course. These are 3-year-old fillies, $250,000 up for grabs here, Barry. And a couple horses that we've become familiar with, you and I have talked about many times. The 5 Lush Lips, super talented, and she's going to be very happy not to deal with nitrogen in here. No nitrogen today. She ran a really good race in the Florida Oaks, and nitrogen just was able to wear her down late. And then in the Edgewood, she had a slow start. She was rank. If you're watching the first furlong of that race, she looks like she's just going to be rank and done. But she actually settles. Pratt was able to grab a hold of her. He got her back to 6. She was about 5 lengths off. She was no match for nitrogen, but she did win the battle for second with Vixen, who she's going to face in here again. And I mean, you look at this field, Barry. We have Ninth Island, who has some speed. I mean, other than that, it's Lush Lips, who we now know can go and can sit. I mean, if she wants to lead, it's hers. If she wants to sit off, she can sit off.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't think that's the preferred trip, though. I don't think they would do that intentionally. I think they
No.
just um, got in a little situation last time. Pratt had to kind of gather her, like you said, and kind of make the best of a bad situation
Yep.
early, and they really did, which shows you the talent that she has. But I don't fully trust her here either.
Nice. Where are you
And
looking?
I don't like really Vixen. I don't think she's as good as Nitrogen, even though she's run behind her a couple times. She does get away from her, but those wins she had at Gulfstream weren't really all that great against not very good competition in comparison to here. Ninth Island might get in her way. Favorite to You might have to get involved a little bit early and push the pace, but the 2 inside horses, particularly Something Stronger, interests me a lot here. That was a big improvement going 5 furlongs on the turf first time, May 15th. And I think the stretch out makes a lot of sense. This horse clearly has run a number on the turf, albeit at a short distance, that rivals or is better than most of these.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, the stretch out makes a lot of sense, and this horse can get better off that 81 buyer in the last race. And I think the positioning will be better too. This horse is going to be closer up to that pace, not necessarily on the lead, but close enough to finish. Same thing with Fix and B. I think them being on the rail and cutting back from those long distances is going to put this horse in a good spot because Giroux is going to have to get out of there because I don't think he's going to want to get too far behind the 2 because then that horse could get shuffled all the way back and then they'll have to circle everybody to win. And that might not be the best trip. So those 2 horses, I think, are going to be sitting in the right spot.
I really like the one fixing to be quite a
Mm,
bit, who you're pointing out too. I think we'll have more late punch now, cutting back to a mile. Those last couple races going mile and 3/16, mile and eight, probably a little bit too long. Most recently, that regret at Churchill got bumped around on both sides at the start. Of course, was back to last, was about 9 lengths off of it, was traveling really well inside what was behind horses and just had to move in between, then up and around, got to fourth, and then a little bit flat late, finished fifth that day, just saving ground, as Barry mentioned. I think can sit a little closer than it just might look overall when you glance at this horse. I'm expecting and hoping that she can be a little bit closer than she was in her last race. Something stronger is really interesting too, because her first two races going long weren't bad. She didn't
no.
run poorly in those races, and she lost to nice horses like Gallows Delight, and wanted to get on the turf and couldn't. So we know she can get this trip. We know she can get the turf. Now she just kind of has to put it all together, second start off the bench, but she absolutely could be sitting really close in here. Yeah, I have both of those horses on my radar and in pick five. I think this starts the late pick five sequence. I think they both fit really well. The three Love You Anyway is cross entered on Friday night at Penn and here, so could run in either of those races. Um, yeah, like Vixen, I guess I prefer of the two short prices. I prefer Lush Lips to Vixen because I think Lush Lips could at least get out front and maybe
Yes.
steal this race that way. I think Vixen is maybe like hit her peak. I just sort of feel like we kind of know Vixen. She's fine. She's like her races are solid. She'll put herself in a good spot. There's a Cassie horse running on Friday night at Penn National, also named Dream On, who
Hmm.
kind of reminds me of Vixen, like a horse that was a little precocious, like solid, but I don't know how good really. So I don't really want to take a short price on her in a spot like this. Um,
Well, she clearly has trouble winning races. I mean,
yeah,
part of it was nitrogen, but I think without nitrogen, I don't think she would have won
no, and
either
and
of those
she
races.
Yeah, she's just the type of horse who, if she puts herself in a good spot and gets a nice trip, she could win a race. And but I don't know how much she's going to overcome. I don't know how high her ceiling is, and she's not going to be a huge price in here. So maybe some knocks on two of the shorter prices in here. I like Lush Lips a little more than Barry, but we're both looking for some prices. Barry started with the two, something stronger, and then he went to Fixin' to Be. That's where I start, Fixin' to Be, who I think is going to run really well in here. We got two others, Lush Lips, Vixen. You hit on Favor to You a little bit. I mean, this horse is sharp, Barry, but what just kind of confuses me a little bit is it's obvious you can see the three races that she sprinted were her best races. And when she went long, she had a tough time like settling. So now going longer against a tougher group, I don't really know how to read her here.
Yeah, she's a tough read, especially from the outside post too. What kind of trip is she
Yeah.
really going to get here? And what are they going to try to do? Are they going to try to pop the gate? That's why I said she might get involved early, um, or drop all the way back. I mean, really, what else can you do unless something happens? She just falls into a good spot, like,
Yeah.
a stalking kind of trip. But
And I don't
it's
even
going to
know
be
how
tough.
good the horses she was facing are in
Right.
comparison, like to this group. So
Well, I can say this about the California horses. In recent years, I would fade them when they came out east. This year,
they've
though,
been, yeah,
they've been running well. Like on Derby Day, a lot of those horses showed up. On Preakness Day, a lot of the California horses showed up, and that hadn't been happening for a while. In fact, the turf ones have been running better than the dirt ones. I mean, we've
and
been getting a lot of Bob Baffert horses that have been kind of underachieving. But on the turf, they've been showing up
yeah,
and almost winning races. We had a couple that won. So I would really keep an eye out on a horse like this in this race because this race isn't full of champions. So they're all kind of the same. So with the right trip, any one of these horses could win.
yeah, and I think
Minus probably Ninth Island, but other than that, any one of them have a shot.
and I think you're kind of hitting on at the top levels and like the highest of levels. I
Mhm.
think you can still have the really good horses that come out from the West Coast. To me, it starts when you start getting into like the high level allowance races and the low level stakes races, where that's where the depth is just different, right? But the best of the
Yes.
best, you can still ship from the West out and win good races. It's more so this like the depth wise. And I think horses kind of like this that we're pointing out with Favor to You, who we don't really know what the quality of horses she's faced in her last couple compared to some of these other ones. But overall, absolutely agree with you. I think sometimes the especially on the grass, the West Coast horses get immediately like poo pooed, and I don't think you want to do that. Especially recently, they've been running pretty well, especially at the high top tier levels. Let's move, Barry, to the Grade 3 Kelly's Landing. This one is race number 9, 6.5 furlongs on the dirt for sprinters. Some major players in here. Booth has been very, very good as of late. He's won 4 in a row. And you can see he's pretty one-dimensional, though. He has one way to go. He's won 3 straight graded stakes races, Oaklawn Park and over at Pimlico. You've got Dr. Venkman, who's never really run a bad race. He was just defeated by Nisos last time out. If you just say that Pacific Classic going 1.25 miles was too far for him, everything else really makes sense. You can't really like poke too many holes in him overall. And he's making his second start back. Got to give some love, Barry. One of the best days gambling for me over the last few years, February the 15th. I was texting Barry, I'm alive in the coast to coast, man. I'm too deep right now in the Palos Verdes. Let's get Big Joe home. And I'm screaming, roll on, Big Joe. So I love my buddy, roll on, Big Joe, who had a very good day for me on February 15th. And he's solid. You know, he's been really nice this year. Like, you know what you're going to get from him. He's got speed. He can sit off a little bit. And Joe, you don't owe me anything anymore, my friend. Thank you for a little earlier this year. But those are, I think, some of the major players in this one.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of speed, especially towards the inside. You know,
that
I'm
could
not
be
really
tough.
sure if they're really gonna take Dr. Venkman off the pace.
I'm worried a little bit about him with the rail draw and just
where's he gonna do? I mean, he's really in a tough spot with the one hole. But that being said, I think a horse like If Happy Is a Choice runs in this spot
because he's also
really,
entered in a
really
different
tough
race too. I think at Laurel, right?
At Laurel. If he goes in that spot, which he might because it's a bigger purse, but I don't think the race really sets up as well as this one does. Hopefully this horse runs, but the 3 outside horses, basically the closers, look kind of tough. I would take Durante, you know, if Happy Is a Choice is out.
So the 2 that are on my radar a little bit, I'm a little worried about Booth in here, just at 6.5 and with the other speed in this race. I mean, right next door, roll on Big Joe isn't going to let him go that much. Now, Joe can sit a little bit. He can kind of be involved, press, and kind of like win the battle and maybe kick on. But that's been happening in smaller fields, and you do have some decent closers in here. So that's a little worrisome for me about the kind of trip that Joe could get. So I'm a little colder on both Booth and Joe, the ones who I think are the for sure speed horses. I'm actually going to throw in even the 2, Barry, 3 Technique, for kind of some of the reasons that you were talking about, right? If you look, he's been running a mile recently, but he's actually run very well at Churchill, and he's run pretty well going 6.5 furlongs. Now, I'm concerned about the layoff more than the distance. I'm just worried that he hasn't run since the Breeders' Cup. But my counter to that would be he's just going to drop back.
Right, his running style.
And make one late run. Right. So he doesn't have to run hard all throughout the race. And if we're looking for horses who, we want to throw in because they could be coming late, 3 Technique actually has some pretty good races when things set up well for him. So he'll be on a pick 4 or pick 5 ticket for me in some way, shape, or form for sure, Barry. But I thought this was the hardest race for me to have a strong opinion about in the entire sequence.
I mean, on paper, it really looks like Dr. Venkman should lay over this field,
but the trip
but the trip is the problem. You know, I think he's going to have to close from farther back than he's ever have.
They got to just make it really decisive early, and because
they don't want to go heads up, right?
Because you don't want to. I mean, I wouldn't want to in this race with Booth and Big Joe, both right there. I wouldn't want to be on the inside of those horses. So yeah, you're probably going to have to grab a hold, and maybe you're like 3 lengths behind when you've never really been that in any of your races before.
No, not that far.
Yeah, and that's what's tricky. You just have to be decisive, make a decision early. Does they grab a hold and hope? Because if he's able to steer his way off and get kind of towards the outside and be in the clear, then yeah. And I think of the shorter prices like I prefer him more than Booth because I could see there being a trip that Dr. Venkman works out. Like Booth's last couple races, I don't really know who he's beat going through
Uh,
recently.
you
Like
know,
some Epic Rides are
Giant
fine.
Mischief's
And yeah,
okay.
and
I
Giant
mean,
Mistress okay. They're fine. Tano Twist is kind of like a solid late runner at that level. I'm worried about the 6.5 with him when he's facing pressure against good horses. So yeah, this is not it's tricky because you have to what's your read on the top two horses who are going to get a lot of money, Vankman and Booth. And Barry and I are making some cases for horses coming from off the pace we think could be really nice prices. You've got Three Technique, who I mentioned. Barry started with Happy as a Choice, who is cross-entered, so keep an eye on where he ends up running on Saturday. And Barry also mentioned the
5
out.
actually is really strange. They go from Keith Asmussen to Pratt on this horse,
Yeah.
and this horse has some races to go to, even at Churchill. I mean, 3 for 6 at Churchill. Um, I wouldn't dismiss that one either. Even though his buyers are a little light, he can dial up a performance when everything goes his way. So he might be like in that second tier, be sitting in a good spot and possibly be able to get first run. Pratt is very good at this sort of thing about timing and getting horses in
Oh
good
yeah.
positions. He might be able to do it here, and certainly if this horse gets dismissed, he might be even more dangerous.
Let's move to race number 10. This one is the grade 2 Wise Dan. You have 4-year-olds and up going a mile and a 16th on the turf course. Didn't think there's all that much early speed in this race on paper. You've got the 4 Mercante, who likes to be really close, but has been good with the target. And like, shout out to this horse because he just keeps doing it. Like, you keep sort of expecting him to regress a little bit, but boom, he throws in another good race, was right there with Spirit of St. Louis. And that's the only horse who beat him in the last 4 races. Multiple graded stakes winners, synthetic and on the turf. Really, really solid. You've got to the outside, Seminole Chief, I think, is going to go, especially with the outside draw. Like that, I feel like that's his only chance in a race like this against tougher horses is by being on the lead or sitting really close and getting the jump. Because I don't think Brilliant Birdie is going to be on the lead this time. And I'll say, Barry, like, I am almost always going to say I want my horse on the lead. This is a horse who just sort of looked like at the top of the lane. He didn't have the fight or any kind of punch. I feel like with a better time to ride, he probably could have won that race if he's kind of sitting and coming from off the pace.
Yeah, trust me, I bet him that day.
Right? Because it was
But
weird. And normally I'm not going to be like, I don't want to be on the lead with almost any horse. I would say 90% of the time. But you can look in the past performances. This isn't even a horse who had been really ever in the top 3 early in his races. Like,
yeah.
It wasn't a horse like that had been sitting close, and then they got aggressive with him. It was sort of weird. He kind of had a good start. 1 or 2 of the other horses didn't go. He sort of was like on the lead, and they were looking around like, oh, I guess we're going to go on with it. But I just think we're going to get a different trip from him in here.
Yeah, I think so too. But
it's a tough race.
Yeah, I'm really leaning towards both of these California horses, especially Mi Hermano Ramon. Got nipped by King of Gosford last time in the Shoemaker. Ran a hell of a race off the bench, and I think he can spring out of that and run a really, really good race at Churchill. And then Seminole Chief, I think, is going to get a great trip. I mean, if you look at this horse, top to bottom, this horse doesn't look any different than the 5. The distances are different, but as far as the progression and how this horse is coming into this race, it's pretty much the same. One's 8-1 and the other's 20-1, and Seminole Chief is going to have better position.
Yeah.
Like you said, I don't really see too much speed in here. And Louis Saez on the outside rail, he's going to get involved. I mean, if he gets the Louis Saez trip, I think that might be the one, especially at a big price.
I'm going to give one other horse a bounce back chance in here too. The 6, Taking Candy, who we've talked about a few different times through the years. If you look at this guy, so he can sit pretty close. And last time out, I think it may have been the turf course, he didn't have the best of trips. He was a little bit wide. If I can eliminate that race and just say that he got some fitness out of that race, if he puts himself in the same sort of spot that he's in repeatedly, I think he could be in a good spot. I think he's going to be a little bit overlooked because of that last performance. It was really disappointing. And what I like for him, Barry, you could see he's had some physical issues because he's just had a tough time stringing races together. And I always love when horses like this are able to put a couple starts together. I'm going to throw him in a pick 4 or pick 5 because I could see him bouncing back. And I completely agree with you on Mi Hermano Ramon. He ran really well last time. And in the Kilrow, that race is better than it looks on paper. He was inside, saving all the ground, and then he had to go from the inside all the way to the outside late, and he was gaining. It was not the easiest of trip for him.
Pretty late, yeah.
Yeah. So I think he fits pretty well in here, and you were kind of pointing it out. Like most of these horses, Henro would be a little surprised first time on the turf. He hasn't really been this classy on the dirt, but like Lanyos is only 6-1. He's going to have to improve on Mercante and Brilliant Birdie, but he's not hopeless in here. Mi Hermano Ramon could win this race. So could Mercante. You kind of pointed out that both the 5 and the 9 look similar. I just talked about taking Candy, and Brilliant Birdie is super logical. Fort Washington, too, like, he's a total shug horse. Like, you see him getting good.
He's a classic
right?
horse. Yeah, I
like,
mean, his past performances look like, the Shug from the 90s.
Yep, late developing, patient with the horse. He's getting a little bit better even as he's getting older because Shug didn't push him early in his career. And about this horse in particular, because I like him and as a horse, and I played him a few different times. He always seems like he gets these wide turf trips, and he actually still runs really well. And he may get another one of them there where he's got to move a little bit wide. Very honest in a tricky kind of race. I mean, you could probably make a case for 7 or 8 of the 9 in this field. Not an easy renewal of the grade 2 Wise. Dan, anything else you want to hit on here, Barry?
Yeah, I honestly kind of want to see Seminole Chief wire this field.
Flying from the outside. Send him hard, Seminole Chief. I'm going to have him in some pick 4s or pick 5s because he's the type of horse that if he does get loose, I could see everybody backing off a little bit.
Absolutely.
Right? And they go, he's not going to wire this field or he's not going to get loose. And this is a competitive group, but there isn't a monster that scares the heck out of you. They're just a lot of different solid horses who could win if the race shapes up in different ways.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is a really good race. I mean, as far as, pick 5, pick 6s, pick 4 kind of things go, this would probably be the spread race.
And then
one of them.
We get to a fun edition of the Grade 1 Stephen Foster race number 11. 7 horses in the field. So it's not the biggest field in the world, but we've got 6 horses in here who have earned over 1.2 million. We have 5 who have earned over 2 million. We have 4 who have earned over 3.6 million. 3 of these horses have earned 4.4 million or above. 2 of them are over $6 million in earnings. We have a Breeders' Cup Classic winner, a Kentucky Derby winner, and a Dubai World Cup winner. If you were making a list of the 5 most prestigious dirt races in the world, those are 3 of the 5, I'd say. Probably along with the Saudi, like Saudi Cup, and, maybe you throw in another Triple Crown race or Pegasus or one of those. But those are some of the absolute biggest. We've got Sierra Leone, your Breeders' Cup Classic winner from last year. We've got Hit Show, who won the Dubai World Cup. And you know what? He was a big long shot when he won that, but this horse is 9 for 18. He certainly likes to win races, and he's a stone cold closer, but he'll get the trip. He'll come running if he gets the trip. And then you got Dan, the Kentucky Derby winner, who actually has run the best back-to-back races he's ever run in his career right now. He's doing better than he's ever done before. How about Mindframe, who I personally think is one of the best horses in training right now? He could be 6 for 6, if maybe not for being a little green last year. Skippy Longstocking, who we talk about all the time, Barry. But when we talked about Skippy in the Gold Cup, what worries me about him in a race like this, 8 of his wins are at 3-1 or under.
Soft
Fields. Safi does a great job spotting him. finding the races where he's going to be a short price. But I mean, his other wins 7-2, 4-1, 9-2. He never wins at a big price in kind of tough spots facing other tough company. So I'm a little worried about him in this spot. I respect the heck out of him as a horse, and they've done amazing with him. But pretty solid group that we've got lining up here.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of questions on everybody, to be honest.
Everybody.
I mean, there is a question mark on Mind Frame in this distance.
Yep.
Although I like that horse quite a bit in here.
Yeah.
I really don't think, it's his race to win or lose in my estimation.
Me too.
Skippy probably would want longer. I think he'd be better longer. Sierra Leone, there's a lot of questions the way he came back in the New Orleans Classic.
Because he was supposed to run to start the year in Saudi.
Yep.
He got backed up a little bit. So he goes into the New Orleans Classic. The race doesn't really shape up for him, but he didn't really fire his race like at all. Like he was just kind of
he didn't. He should have handled that field,
or at least finished a horse like Hall of Fame, right?
Right.
Like,
he should have got
been
second.
Closer,
yeah.
or he's not beaten 4 lengths. He didn't really pick up his feet much there. So now it kind of feels like this is like a starting over point for him almost.
He's going to be in last place, and he's going to have to pass everybody.
And there's not like, I think Ashcroft being in this race, everyone is going to be rooting for the D. Wayne Lucas horses this weekend.
Absolutely.
He has to be showing the type of speed he used to. So I'm kind of expecting him to maybe be the long shot on the lead, because you take him out of the race on the front end. The rest of this horse is like pressers, right? They're like, they want to sit close, but they're not. I don't think they're going to be lined up on the lead, flying and like setting it up for Sierra Leone.
Right, and that's why I think Mind Frame is going to try to pop the gate, get in front, and slow down the pace. And you know how I feel about IRED on the lead. So there's going to be that question, and it could be just Mind Frame is just better and more talented than these horses, and it won't matter. Mystic Dan is another one. He's coming into this race very well, but where's he been since the Derby? I mean, I can't trust him in this spot because he's facing way better horses than he did last time.
And he got a really, and I want to give him a lot of credit because he tailed off. He had a few bad races, and he's really in as good a form as he's ever been. But he did also, Barry, in that blame, Antiquarian kind of went wide at the top of the lane and like took out Hall of Fame a little bit. And both of those horses ended up out in like the 5-6 path. And it just gave Mystic Dan the most dream run through the rail.
He just came through.
He won the race, but it was a perfect setup, perfect trip. I don't know if he's going to get that again against, if he ran that same race against this group, I don't think it would be good enough. He's going to have to take a step forward off of that.
Yes, I think so too. I mean, he ran in a lot of tough races last year, so I'm not going to really hold that against him. But his 2 comeback races this year, Saudi Crown, who's a nice horse, but there wasn't really much behind that, behind Mystic Dan, and then Mystic Dan beat Antiquarian, who's a nice horse, but he wouldn't be anywhere near
Saudi. No, I mean, think about the prices those horses would be just in this race. Right?
Exactly.
Like they'd both be 4th, 5th choices, 6th choices, Saudi Crown and Antiquarian. And I like both of them.
And I think Hit Show wants to go longer as well. I don't think this is a good distance for him.
Bigger field, going longer, where he gets more speed, right? Like that's the trip that he wants, the same kind of trip that Sierra Leone gets, but we're not really sure either of them are going to get it. I like, for the same reasons that you're saying, I was all 2 and then some 1. Because I just think those are the horses that can sit the trips that we're looking for. Save ground down on the inside. They'll be in the top 3 or 4. They have some speed, but they can pass horses if they need to. And
they don't have to go super fast either.
No.
Either one of them.
No. I just think that both of them just sit really nice trips in here. I prefer Mind Frame of the 2. I think he'll get bet a little bit in here. I mean, if he's anything close to 7-2, I would absolutely, Barry and I would love that type of
all in.
Yeah, love that type of a price. But it is cool when you see a good race like this with a lot of familiar names. First Mission is a 4-time graded stakes winner. He's still looking for his first grade 1. Skippy Longstocking, a 9-time graded stakes winner. He's still looking for his first grade 1. Then you got Mindframe, who's a grade one winner, just won that really tough Churchill. And so far out of that race, we knew it was going to be tough. And already it's been coming back live because Nisos came back to win the Triple Bend with a 108 Buyer speed figure. Bookham Dano came back to win the True North. And while Mulliken didn't win, he lost to Bookham Dano. They both came back and ran 1-2. So the third, fourth, and fifth place finishers out of that race have all come back already and run really well. So we knew that race was tough, and it's already showing that it was really tough. Yeah, this was a cool race to handicap. Getting to see some horses who have won some big races in here. But Barry and I both agree that Mindframe looks like the one right now who's trending in the right direction, who could get a great trip, stretching out. Just expect him to be a lot closer than he was in that last race when he came from way out of it. He could be on the lead or sitting maybe right behind if they want to target. Anything else you want to hit on the Stephen Foster, my friend?
No, I'm really excited for that race.
Yeah.
I want to see what kind of trips everybody gets, what the jockeys are going to do, and especially with Sierra Leone. I'm really interested to see where this horse is going to be in this race.
Let's get to the 12th and final. This one is the American Derby, and it's going to go a mile and a 16th on the turf course. These are 3-year-olds, some solid horses in here. We were just talking about the Kentucky Derby with Mystic Dan from last year. We've got Flying Mohawk, who ran in the Kentucky Derby, Tistastic, who ran in the Kentucky Derby. They're both in this race. They're going to move to the turf after taking shots on the dirt, and we know that those horses have had success on the grass before. But this is another race, just kind of looking at it, glancing through the field, not that much early speed in here.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised. I mean, this is going to be a tough race to read because I'm sure you're going to get somebody that's going to try to get out there in front, like Freedom's
I'm
on
hoping
Street.
the 8. I'm hoping it's the 8, right? Yeah, like that's the one that makes sense.
And that one could sneak away and kind of rock him to sleep up front, but I'm not sure.
We don't know how good he is.
Enough. Right. Yeah. A horse that really interests me is Giacoso.
Yeah.
Those two races this year, or the first two, the February 15th race and the March 22nd, big time excuses there. I mean, the horse clearly doesn't want dirt. So you can X out that one, February 15th. The second one, he ran like a horse, a turf horse on the dirt, basically, on that synthetic surface. Ran up, loomed, and then faded. So I can excuse that one too. Then goes into the American turf at Churchill, runs a bang-up race while being wide really the whole way. Gets into this spot, which is a much easier spot than that race. Although Zulu Kingdom's in this one. Oh, no, she's not in. Sorry. Zulu Kingdom's not in this one. That makes everything better.
Zulu Kingdom's Friday at Penn.
Friday at Penn, yeah.
That's where we saw.
Looking at too many past performances.
I was going to say, yeah, no worries. No worries.
Yeah, so I think getting away from Zulu Kingdom is the key here.
Yeah.
As long as the setup, that's really the only problem. I don't really foresee this pace getting too hot unless Reagan's Wit gets into the action, maybe possibly Tistastic.
That was my biggest concern with Giacoso, because I completely agree with you. I think from a class level and a fit, I think he fits really well in here. I just am worried if he's going to get the trip that he needs to win this race. But I just take that last race that when he finished 5th. Those top 4 finishers, any one of them would probably be favored or at least a major player in this race. Test score has been really good on the grass, was second in the American turf there. New Century coming into this race. Last year was a grade 1 winner in the summer. Was only 5-1 in that race. And then Mibago is running on Friday night against Zulu Kingdom at Penn National. And Mibago was one of the quicker horses out there, and you sort of know what you're going to get. So that was not an easy race at all. I think Giacoso fits. The one who, like, what do we do with the 2 Derby horses back on the turf?
I kind of like Flying Mohawk, to be honest.
Me too. Yeah.
He's going to be forwardly placed. He should be up closer than a lot of these horses. Well, at least mapping this race, it looked like Reagan's Wit's probably going to get involved a little bit earlier than they really want to.
Yeah.
And I think Flying Mohawk can kind of sit nice behind that one or close to that one. depending on what the 8 does and how how the rest of the field kind of gathers in around the 8. But I think Flying Mohawk has a huge shot.
Yeah. Back to the turf, proven at Churchill, was entered in a race at Saratoga that was taken off the turf. So he's able to end up here. Yeah, I mean, the horses that you hit on were the ones that were on my radar. I kind of started with the 8 and the 9 because I think the 8 is one. If you're playing like a pick 4 or pick 5, you probably have to use this horse just in case he's 2 lengths clear at the top of the lane, because he really could. If nobody else wants to go, he's one of the horses who just has the most natural speed by far. But he's been more of like a sitting behind with the target. So we'll see if they do want to go get aggressive. He just may end up on the lead by default. The 2 I had to use bouncing back to the turf. The 9 is going to be in the mix for me. Absolutely. And the 1 was the hardest read in the race for me, Ready Reagan's Wit, because I think probably the most solid here, but he's a little quirky. Remember, because he took the lead and then he almost put Jose Ortiz into the rail.
Yes, into the rail.
In the Murphy there. And like Cherie DeVoe, I think, posted a video or a picture kind of like laughing about it, because you can always have a laugh afterwards. But he's right. If he's down on the inside and maybe he's in tight quarters, or if I don't know if he's a type of horse yet who like you can ask to do multiple things. You know, he might just be one that you want to sit on and then let him make one late run. So while I respect his ability, I think he's still a little quirky. I don't want to take too short of a price on him.
Yeah, not only that, because they might want to take it easy with that horse and not try to break him fast. That's why he gets rank and try to jump over the rail and stuff like that. Which leads me to the next point about Flying Mohawk, is this horse could probably get the lead, and Frankie is as good as it gets on the lead. I don't care what anybody says. He rides on the lead very, very well.
Yep.
And this is one of those kind of races where it's like, oh man, how did Frankie get to the lead and win this race?
He was down inside. He got a good start and he just held that position, right?
Exactly. And I think that's a possibility here, especially if he can be a little bit quicker than Freedom's Not Free, because that horse really doesn't exactly
I don't think he'll battle with Flying Mohawk, right? Like if Flying Mohawk goes and gets a length, the 8 will be fine. I'll sit off a length behind, no problem.
Right. And that, that really makes me like Flying Mohawk a little bit more.
Jason Worth and the 2-8 Racing, had a chance to talk with him a couple times over the last few years. They were also part of the Dornick ownership group, who had some fantastic success last year. So not an easy pick 6 sequence here, right? The stakes races, because you have some big names like Torpedo Anna and Mystic Dan, but just a few months ago, the 2 of them were in totally different places, right? Torpedo Anna was the dominant horse in the division that never ran a bad race, and Mystic Dan had thrown in a couple clunkers and we weren't sure who he was. And now Mystic Dan's had the couple back-to-back really solid races, and we are a little unsure if Torpedo Anna still has some of her best races. Add 4 more stakes on top of those 2, one of the stronger editions of the Stephen Foster that we've seen in recent years. And then, man, on Sunday, I just previewed the Sunday 10th race at Churchill with Mike Beer on the DRF YouTube. It's a field of 13. It's the max field. It's 3-year-old sprinters going 7 furlongs. It is like one of the most challenging races. It's super wide open. So Saturday and Sunday, some great cards at Churchill. Barry, talk to us about the notorious OTB and what you guys have on the menu this weekend.
Yeah, we did a show today that actually we had a technical issue where I wasn't able to be on there, but we did Penn Derby night. I'm sorry, Penn Mile.
Penn Mile and Penn Oaks, yeah, right.
We did that today, and I had some picks for that. And then we're doing Stephen F. Foster $100 budget. So you might want to tune into that one to see how I'm going to play these horses.
Beautiful, Barry. Always a pleasure, man. This was a fun chat with you. And how about this? Next week, we'll be getting into Saratoga. And then we're basically like Saratoga, one more week of Saratoga, and then Del Mar joins the party. Oof. So that'll be our summer. A lot of Del Mar, a lot of Saratoga, maybe a looking at Monmouth when they have the Haskell Day. But we're getting ready, man, for another fun summer ahead. I'm looking forward to it. And Always appreciate the help, my friend. I'm actually going to be able to make a little trip this weekend. Shout out to our buddy Andrew Champagne, who's getting hitched this weekend.
Hey,
Congrats,
congratulations, getting married, man.
congrats to AC over there. Barry, buddy, next week we'll get into some Saratoga. Thanks to everyone for hanging out with us here. Don't forget about those classic day passes at shop.drf.com. If you are watching on any of the socials, make sure to follow Daily Racing Form on social media. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel below. Drop a comment and let us know who you like in some of these races. Barry and I will be back talking some Saratoga next week. Good luck, everyone.